Hello and welcome to Rock, Paper, Shotgun. Geoffrey Video Games Keighley kicked off Gamescom this week with his annual opening night live showcase, a 2-hour-long live stream packed to the brim with fresh trailers for a bunch of upcoming titles. With so many games to talk about, I climbed to the peak of Content Mountain before lighting the RPS brazier, summoning my wonderful colleagues to come and tell me which was their favourite game from Geoffcom Live. So without further ado, these are our 8 favourite games from Gamescom's opening night live. Enjoy. Hey CJ, how's it going?
Hello Liam, I'm alright, thank you very much, yeah.
Very nice to have you on. It's been a while. We were just saying the last time we chatted in general was for the last time you were on a video, so it's nice to have a reason just to catch up.
It's been literal months.
Literal months.
How are you holding together?
I mean, the heat has made it difficult. As you'll know, we're from the same area.
Yeah.
I don't think us northeast locals are used to the heat.
Sweltering highs of like 24 degrees.
Too much.
Yeah.
We watched Gamescom opening night live last night. For some reason, I keep fumbling that. Gamescom opening night live. It shouldn't be that hard to say. What were your general opinions on Geoff Keighley's latest?
It was more interesting than not E3, I think.
Oh, okay.
There was some genuinely sort of like surprising developments, I think, compared to that. But then Geoff did kind of warn everybody about not E3 that it wasn't going to be loads of game reveals. So I think they maybe were saving things up for Gamescom. I don't know. As we were going to talk about, my standout last night was Dead Island 2.
I'm so interested to hear your take on this. So yeah, tell me why Dead Island 2 left an impression.
Embarrassingly, I'm actually quite a big fan of the first game, despite its many flaws and fairly terrible attitudes even for the time. So, but the thing that I loved about it the most really was the melee system.
Right, okay.
Which I know a lot of other people didn't get on with, but it gave my right thumb a really good workout, like flipping around the analog stick, like desperately whacking zombies. And I just thought it was one of those perfect like maps of like intent and like control, with you trying to like fend off waves of like bloodthirsty undead, like just swatting them like flies. And I thought that it kind of is one of the best horror games I think I've played in that way, because it does feel very desperate. There's tons of zombies and you get knackered from like, just like macheting them like right, left and centre, and you're just like, oh, not another one. Oh, where have you come from? Oh, go away. And it just it does make it feel like a hindrance to get around the fairly large island and just like constantly encountering random blokes who want to eat your face, and just saying no and whacking them with a hammer that's electrified.
So is there anything in particular about the sequel that gets you excited as a fan of the original? Does it seem similar in terms of structure and design?
The fact it's not on an island, which it should be because it's Dead Island 2, but it's not. It's in Los Angeles, which...
Well, that famous island, LA.
Yeah, that massive island everybody can easily get to. But I think it's because I'm hoping they're going for this really high concept idea that LA is kind of distinct in its attitudes and its sort of culture, and that's what makes it an island, because it's actually about like the wealth and influence of the people that live in Los Angeles. But I'm probably giving it a massive amount of credit that it's not due.
I mean, that sounds very elevated as a concept. I like it. If it doesn't reach that lofty height, then I'm already disappointed.
But yeah, I think that would be a good fit for the 2020s rather than 2014 when it was originally announced.
Yeah.
And I do find it like quite depressing that like I was still in my 20s when it was announced. But yeah, I hope that they can do something interesting with Los Angeles. It's not a place I've ever been to, and I kind of like being a digital tourist in these things, where you can go and explore an environment that you maybe never get a chance to go to, but eventually you do, and then you realise that when you're walking through it, oh, I've been here, but I was killing zombies. And it's not like that at all in real life. But I'm hoping that they do a really good, accurate representation of like LA on the ground, and that one day I'll get to go and have an explore and be like, oh, this is where a lot of that guy's head on. I drove a massive tanker into that building over there and then blew it up.
Your partner just staring at you as you say these things.
And just warning people passing by, no, he didn't really do any of this.
Yeah,
Was it a game? Yeah.
I have the same attitude. I'm off to Florence in a few weeks, and I know for a fact I'm going to be like, oh, I climbed that building as Ezio in Assassin's Creed 2. It's my only understanding of the culture of this beautiful ancient city. is when I fought the Pope for his magic orb.
The last time I was here, it was the 15th century.
I must admit, the trailer was interesting. I was just saying to you before we started recording, Dead Island 2 has been just around. I've just been aware of it for so long because, yeah, as you say, it was first revealed in 2014. And the original game was also a bit of like a cultural moment after that first trailer dropped, and it kind of was the game that everyone was excited for about a year back in the early 2010s. So yeah, it's fascinating to see it still coming out, that it's still a game that people are working on, and I do wonder what it'll be like, especially considering Techland, who made the original Dead Island, have now made 2 sort of spiritual successors to this series. Yeah, I'd be very, very interested to see what it's like.
I think that's the thing. It's like it feels like an artifact now. It feels like a almost like a remnant of early 2010s like conceptual design anyway, even if it's not. And it seems like a modern game. I think the weirdest thing that I've heard about it so far is that it incorporates something called Alexa Game Control, which is like Amazon's voice activated way of kind of playing. You'll be able to like shout at zombies to get their attention and things like that. You won't need an Alexa. You don't. You can use that, but you don't need one. You can just use your mic. But it just makes me think of Kinect.
Yeah, that's such an odd. You're right. That makes the game feel even more like an artifact, because back in the day it would be Kinect or Xbox Smart Glass, if you remember that.
God,
just
yeah.
These bizarre additional ways of playing games that no one ever used. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully the next time you're in a video, I don't know, Game Awards.
December? No, at least I've got time to get you a Christmas present.
Oh God, what am I going to get, CJ? Ollie, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. How did you find Geoffcom opening night?
It was good. Yeah, I mean, I think we always have a slightly warped view of any of these shows when we're covering them, because we don't, like, I basically only saw half of everything that was on offer because I was writing for the other half. But yeah, I thought it was good. There were a few things that I was legitimately interested in, which is about as much as I could expect from shows like this. So,
well, tell me about the thing you're most interested in, if you wouldn't mind.
All right, so the thing that I am probably most interested in is Lies of P. To be honest, that's not a change from before this show. I was already really excited for Lies of P. This latest trailer just added fuel to the flame.
So tell me what's the interest in Lies of P? Pinocchio Bloodborne, as I've been calling it.
Well, that you've basically said what my interest is right there. I mean, I have never played Bloodborne. I've watched it, and I love the aesthetic of it, and I love the aesthetic that's been shown so far in Lies of P. I mean, the dark Victorian steampunk setting is always a winner, and I think they've done just an amazing job from what I've seen so far on just the character design and the clothing and everything. It looks completely immaculate, and it just seems like a world that I can't wait to get lost in. I hope that all of the characters are conniving in some way. I get that vibe from all of them.
It feels very deluxe.
Yes.
You know, it looks very lavish and beautiful. And what I really liked about the trailer last night was it felt like a From Software trailer. The pacing, the weird little guys talking over, you know, people getting battered by horrible monsters. It was very, very From Software.
Yeah, there was even the creepy laugh at the very end, wasn't there? That
yes,
was very
there
From
was.
Software.
Love a sinister From Software laugh. I'm just, for me, maybe you can answer this. I don't quite understand why it's Pinocchio themed. It feels like it could have been about anything else, and it would have, you know, if it had the same aesthetics and the same world design and character design, it would probably have the same impact. The fact it's about Pinocchio I find quite jarring, or am I missing some integral part to the plot that makes this game more interesting?
I mean, I don't think you're missing anything yet. I think, well, it depends what they do with it, isn't it? It's down to when we actually play the game, do they do much with the idea of Pinocchio and puppetry and all of that? I mean, I think there's potential, for sure. I mean, I like the idea that the central premise of, you know, Geppetto creating Pinocchio to fight all of these evil puppets. That sounds pretty cool.
It's pretty badass, yeah, that is true.
And, you know, it gives them scope for a lot of creativity in, like, enemy design, and I think I saw in the trailer last night that Pinocchio has, well, he obviously has this mechanical arm, but it seems very Sekiro-esque in the sense that you can attach certain gadgets to it and switch them on the fly.
Yeah, that did look really interesting.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see what they do with that. It actually gave me a lot of Sekiro vibes, almost more so than Elden Ring, because it didn't really look like a very open world game. I'm not sure, it might be, but it seemed kind of more linear and just incredibly slick and stylish in a way that is more reminiscent of Sekiro than Elden Ring, I think.
Yeah, I think I would completely agree with that. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm so curious about this one because when it first came out that someone was making a Pinocchio Souls-like, I immediately dismissed it as just a ridiculous sounding idea.
Yeah.
But the more I see of it, the more I'm like, they've got something here. It's considered and, you know, it is riffing a lot on games I like, but in a way that feels very alluring, perhaps. I assume he has some kind of finishing move where he just lies and his nose stabs someone in the eye or something.
I would love that. That would be the best. It would need to be gory in order to fit the aesthetic, I think. They'd need to make it pretty bloody.
Hey, Katharine, how's it going?
Good, Liam. How are you?
I'm not too bad. It's nice to have you back in a video. So we watched Gamescom opening night live yesterday as a team. What were your general thoughts about Geoffcom's live conference?
It was fine. I could definitely do with a little bit less hype, fewer uses of the phrase IP. They are games, gosh darn it.
Oh yeah, I didn't even realise they were saying that. You're right.
But yeah, it was fine. There's still a lot of games that, you know, are just sort of nebulous 2023 or nebulous CG cinematic trailers that don't really tell us very much about what it actually is. But I think that's kind of just the nature of all announcement stream shows these days. So yeah, it was fine. There are some games coming out that look cool, so I'm happy.
So let's talk about the game that you think looks the coolest.
So my highlight was a game called Scars Above. It is probably one of many games that might have blurred into one because a lot of games were very similar during the showcase. But Scars Above is the third-person action shooter from Madhead Games and Prime Matter. It looked very much like Returnal, based on the quite enigmatic trailer. A lot of it was sort of CG still, but it did look, you know, there were a few snippets of gameplay in there. But yeah, it is you play as a scientist, sort of you end up getting stranded on a mysterious alien planet. That sounds not at all familiar. And yeah, sort of fighting horrible monsters. I sort of Returnal was one of my sort of surprise hits last year. I didn't think that I would like it, but I really dug it. And yeah, so the fact that this kind of looks like that, I don't think it's going to be like a kind of roguelike-y thing like Returnal. It's hard to tell at this point. But even if it just ends up being a more straightforward sort of linear shooter like that, I'm still very much up for that. Yeah, the world looks interesting. I'm very keen to find out what the giant floating, you know, pyramid hanging above the earth is all about. How about you, Liam? What was your highlight?
Ooh, well, I kind of have two. One of them is new Tales from the Borderlands, I should say, because I'm such a huge fan of that original Telltale series that I am cautiously optimistic about the sequel. I thought the trailer last night looked pretty good. I like that universe, but I've never liked the main Borderlands series.
No, I'm very much in the same boat.
Yeah, so I thought what Tales from the Borderlands did was give a lot of heart and compelling storylines within that, you know, within that world. The fact that it's made internally by Gearbox is maybe the one thing that's slightly holding me back.
Although they did say that they did have some of the original Telltale development team, I think, on board last night.
Oh yeah, they did, didn't they?
There is hope a little bit, but who exactly is involved? I don't think we know yet.
That'd be interesting. Hopefully we find out soon. So yeah, sort of saying that one is my tentative second pick, but my first pick is Friends vs. Friends.
Oh yes,
which we only saw a very brief glimpse of gameplay. It had a very colourful, gory animated trailer where a bunch of cute anthropomorphic animals lay waste to one another with guns and swords.
With a very good backing track as well.
Yeah, super good backing track. Yeah, very, very poppy, very fun. But the very limited bit of gameplay that we saw is a first-person shooter with cards. And as a huge fan of Neon White, I'm kind of into this idea of blending those two genres together. But the difference here is that while Neon White was a first-person speedrunning game, this one is a PvP multiplayer shooter. So it's 1v1 or 2v2, where you burn through these cards to attack your friends. And I'm kind of into that. I think it's really interesting. So yeah, colourful first-person shooters with big, chunky, goofy enemies. I really liked Angerfoot, the demo that I played early this year. I'm really excited for that, which is coming out, I think, at some point next year. So yeah, just give me an endless supply of colourful first-person shooters with nice twists on their mechanics or by blending in a different genre, and I'll be happy.
Who would win in a fight, Neon White or Friends versus Friends?
Ooh, that's a good question. Have you played much Neon White? Have you played it at all yet?
I haven't, no. I'm too bad at speedrunning to be much good at it.
I think you'd like it, It's good. It has quite a brutal edge to it, and I feel like all the characters in Neon White are straight psychopaths. So I feel like they probably have the edge in just being worse people. But then I haven't played Friends versus Friends, so maybe there's a sociopathic chicken that you can play as. I don't know. But yeah, looks good. I'm excited for that. Well, thank you so much for jumping on, and I'm sure we'll get back on very soon.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Rebecca, how's it going?
Oh, not too badly. I'm just a bit tired, How you doing?
We were both up last night watching Opening Night Live. What were your general thoughts about the show?
Oh, my general thoughts, though. Oh, there goes one. I have been yawning a lot because I was up late. That was another genuine yawn.
That was so well timed.
It was. If we keep saying yawn, I'll probably keep doing it. But yeah, it was maybe not the most riveting 2 hours that I've ever spent staying up until the middle of the night UK time to watch game trailers. I don't think it was terrible. Just nothing super inspired me in the same way that some of the stuff from Not E3 did earlier this summer.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Too many CGI trailers that give you a flavour of the thing, but don't really tell you anything. From Opening Night Live then, was there anything that caught your eye specifically?
There were a few things that I was kind of interested in, but the one that I wanted to talk to you about today is The Expanse, which is subtitled a Telltale series, interestingly, because it's being published by Telltale. Telltale have sort of semi-reformed after everything that kicked off in, 2018, when within the span of 2 days it went from, one of the big studios that you were really excited for what they were doing next to they fired the entire team basically, and it was a real horror show, and I think that shadow looms large. But this is, I think, the first, or one of the first games the sort of revived Telltale is working on, although they are publishing this one and not developing it, which I think that title doesn't necessarily make entirely clear.
It's interesting. I didn't even know that. Okay.
I only know it because the actual development team is Deck 9, who make the Life is Strange games now, and I'm a massive Life is Strange fan. So that was kind of what got me interested in this. More, to be honest, than the Telltale name at this point.
Yeah.
Just because I really like what Deck 9 are putting out at the moment, and that in itself was enough to get me sort of like, oh, okay, I'll take a closer look at this one.
That is so interesting that they went with the Telltale branding rather than Deck 9. So you're a huge Life is Strange fan.
Oh, absolutely. Adore Life is Strange.
It makes sense why you are excited for The Expanse. Do you watch the TV show at all, or you just...
I have never watched the TV show.
Okay.
Which is, one of the things that was kind of when I was like, I'm not really very excited for anything. I gotta be honest, if this wasn't tied into a TV IP that I know nothing about, I would probably be more excited than I am, which is no intended shade on The Expanse. I've heard really good things.
Yeah.
But kind of knowing that it comes with a weight of like 6 seasons and a book series behind it is like... If it was just a nice space opera from Telltale and Deck 9, I would be like, let's go. But with the knowledge that it ties into something bigger that I'm not familiar with, that's kind of the barrier to me getting super excited about it. But at the same time, it's going to be a prequel to the TV series, so I'm assuming that it doesn't hopefully require a lot of knowledge of the world going in to kind of enjoy it.
Yeah.
It had occurred to me that I could try and use this as sort of impetus to finally watch the TV show. But then I realised that realistically, I'm not going to watch 6 seasons of a show between now and next. I watch like 2 hours of TV a week. It's not going to happen. And this game's coming out next summer. But it's a prequel, so hopefully it'll be able to stand on its own a little bit. And maybe it'll be the thing that gets me into the show rather than the other way around. So, there's always that possibility.
How do you feel? I'm springing this on you. We have not discussed this prior to recording.
Okay.
We saw a lot of these Telltale, episodic narrative games based on popular TV and film properties spring up around, I don't know, it was like 2014 to maybe about 2016, right? Do you think this is indicative that that's going to start again? Do you think this is a one-off based on a passion project that maybe Deck 9 were kicking around for a while? Would you like to see more adaptations of TV and film come to this kind of genre?
It's interesting you say that, because Deck 9, who came out with Life is Strange True Colours last year, have very deliberately said that they want to kind of distance themselves from the sort of episodic release model. And Life is Strange True Colours dropped as a single 5-episode release.
Of course.
With then the bonus episode a couple of weeks later. And I find it interesting. It feels like the episodic thing must be coming from Telltale, if I may speculate wildly, just based on what Deck 9 have said about their own sort of preferences. It feels like almost a sort of step back, but maybe it is trying to recapture that sort of heyday of Telltale feel. I mean, it's got, you know, the Telltale branding in the name, and even though it feels like Deck 9 have been potentially even more involved in the day-to-day, that's what they're leaning on. So yeah, I find it interesting the way this is being done, and it does feel kind of like a throwback. I mean, something like this, I suppose, has potentially been in the works for quite a while. And you know, it could be Deck 9 kind of saying we're doing our last episodic outing, whereas Telltale are being like, we're trying to get back into episodic and kind of bring that back a bit more, even though maybe that's had its day now. We've seen things like, you know, massive months-long delays between episodes kind of killing appetite for things like Life is Strange 2 and The Walking Dead final season and that sort of thing.
It's a very good point. Part
of my general nerdery is that I love a multimedia franchise, so I'm always happy to see something get a spin-off game, get a spin-off book. And yeah, I mean, I think that the concern is that Telltale will just repeat their same mistakes from the past and keep buying up IP that's really unsustainable and trying to, you know, string it out on the back of a couple of successful titles. But hopefully, I mean, you know, let's try not to judge it too quickly on that, even though I am cautious of the involvement on the Telltale side here, but encouraged by the involvement of Deck 9.
Nice. I honestly, before we started chatting, I was like, it's an interesting pick, and I'm curious as to what Rebecca's going to say about it. And now I'm actually more curious about it. So thank you for jumping on and telling me more about why you're excited for it.
Thank you.
Well, if it isn't my best frenemy, Hayden. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, a bit tired because we are just very, you know, fresh from having covered Gamescom stuff. But excited to be here with my rival, nemesis.
I thought for a second you were about to say a friend.
Never.
So what were your general thoughts about Geoffcom Live?
I thought it was fine. I thought, I'm interested to, like, hear what everybody else on the team thinks, but it didn't really grab me. A lot of the trailers were like, here's a brand new world from so-and-so. A lot of the time I didn't know who so-and-so was. The brand new world was just a cinematic trailer with nothing to go for it. Like a lot of the games, it's hard to get excited about something when you don't know what it is. Yeah. But there is definitely like one thing I'm excited for at least.
Thank you for setting up that segue for me. What is the one game that you are excited for that you saw last night?
So I'm excited for Moonbreaker, which is the new game from Unknown Worlds. But Unknown Worlds being like the people behind Subnautica rather than like a super vague new IP. So, I mean, it's a pretty hard like left turn for Unknown Worlds to be fair, to go from like
massively
underwater survival to digital tabletop miniature wargaming, which is what Moonbreaker is. Strategy tabletop wargaming thing with Brandon Sanderson involved, the fantasy sci-fi author who's very popular. I haven't ever read a Brandon Sanderson novel, but like I didn't even know who he was until like a few months ago when he did some really popular crowdfunding thing, and it was like he's made so much money like overnight and funded like a new book series or something, and I was like, who is this person? But now I know the name. And then he came on and spoke about Moonbreaker for a little bit. Apparently he's like done the lore for it. Very like George R.R. Martin doing Elden Ring energy, right?
Right, okay. Right, so yeah, big author is involved in a video game, I say.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But like, the lore stuff, like, aside, because who knows what that'll actually end up being. Apparently, according to Alice B's, like, preview post, something about drilling into moons, hence Moonbreaker.
Cool,
interested to see what that actually is. But,
it's pretty rad.
Yeah, I'm interested in Moonbreaker, because I'm into miniatures myself, but they're very expensive. And when you pay £50 for a box of like 5 miniatures, and then you start assembling them, and you have big old fingers that break things very easily, honestly, it's heartbreaking, and I've lost like so many to just like snapping off really brittle like heads or arms, and then like you try and glue them together, and then it's like they just things don't look right. And when you've got glue on stuff, if you don't do it perfectly, it can be a little bit difficult to paint. So it becomes a whole thing, and you are literally throwing money down the drain at that point. Like when you're scrambling to try and save something that is like essentially worth like 10 quid. Devastating, right? Like the cost of living crisis is very real. The economy is breaking. I can't afford to lose £10 on one miniature. And like in the same vein, painting miniatures gives me a lot of anxiety. Like I find it really scary to get paint on the mini, because once it's on there, it's so precise and it feels so permanent, even though I know you can just paint over something if you need to with like a black and start again. It's so scary. And also paint is expensive. It's always such an expensive hobby. Which, you know, like I say, on the one hand, makes it really daunting to actually do anything with them. On the other hand, also makes it very difficult to get friends to play or to buy in, right? So, like, I'm into, like, Warhammer stuff, but I don't have friends who are into Warhammer stuff because a lot of them are still at uni. They can't afford... I can barely afford it. They definitely can't afford it, right?
Yeah,
like,
good point, yeah.
So, like, Moonbreaker, it's exciting to think I'll be able to play a wargaming, like, miniatures game with my friends without having to worry about like breaking the minis, and I can just paint, like, because you can paint the miniatures in Moonbreaker as well. So I can just paint freely without needing to worry about, like, you know, what happens if I get this silver lead belcher onto the shoe. Like, I don't have to worry about that, you know what I mean? I can just select the little components and just like quickly airbrush them or like fill in like precise little details. I feel like it's a chance for me to experiment with painting without having to actively like lose heaps of money.
I think that's the thing that excites me the most about this game as well, is it's a war game conversion that understands that the miniatures are as much as part of the appeal as the actual battling aspect. You know, I played a lot of the original Dawn of War back in the day and absolutely loved it because I wanted to build Warhammer, but it was expensive and I was terrible at it, like you said. And, you know, that game was amazing, but it gave life to these miniatures and they were fully animated and it took place on actual planets, and it kind of removed the miniature building side. You could customize your units, but what's really nice about Moonbreaker is they have the bases and they're not fully animated as well. So although you can paint them and you can customize them, on the actual battlefield, they move like miniatures, albeit with some animations that bring life to them in a way that still maintains their miniature form, but also makes them dynamic and fun to play with. And I think that's what's really appealing about this. It's clearly a game that understands the appeal of miniatures and wargaming and is converting that digitally in a way that no one else really has, to my recollection.
Yeah, that's definitely captures an element of what I love about it as well. Like, because we saw gameplay of Moonbreaker, right? And it's actual minis on a table, but like then the minis will shoot something, and like, you know, an actual like plasma bolt comes out of the gun, and the mini like wobbles because you know what I mean, shakes a little bit because of the force of that like shot. I love that so much. Like the little animation touches, so, like the minis themselves aren't alive, but that kind of stroke of imagination of like there is a plasma bolt firing here, and the miniature wobbles as it happens because it's like, you know, there's like an actual force there. I think that's so, because it definitely just feels like wargaming, but the bits that I would imagine in my head like are actually coming to life, and I just love that so much.
Yeah, it's the best.
And like I say, we saw gameplay. It's coming out in early access the end of September. Like, there aren't many games from Geoffcom that we can say like we're going to be playing that soon.
Oh yeah, it's out so soon. It's like a couple of weeks, right?
Right, literally a few weeks. Like by the time PAX and all the chaos is over, and like it's almost here. You know what I mean? I'm really just very excited to like play something new that looks so fun in like a month's time, because this year we're starting to feel a little bit dire. There wasn't loads of stuff that I was particularly interested in, so like Moonbreaker's definitely caught my attention, and I'm really happy. So yeah, excited to get my hands on it. It's only like a month away. Yeah, really, really excited.
Awesome. Well, thank you for jumping on to tell me all about it.
Thank you for having me.
Hey Alice, welcome back.
Hey Liam.
So it was Gamescom opening night live last night. What did you think about it?
It was fine. It was fine. I liked Jeff's shiny jacket. It was like a cross between a leather jacket and a kind of waterproof parka. That was good. It was a lot of the games I wrote up for the site anyway. It was a lot of like, you know, trailers that didn't really tell you what the game was.
Yeah.
But there was some good stuff as well. some stuff I'm excited to hear about.
So why don't you tell me about the one thing that you're super excited about?
Where, I mean, I nearly did pick Tales from the Borderlands. I'm very excited that there's going to be more Tales from the Borderlands, because that is, as we all know, as all right-thinking people believe, Tales from the Borderlands is the best Borderlands game, and I think it's great that there's going to be more.
I just said that exact same point to Katharine in a separate section of this video.
It's good. It means it will be hammered home to the viewer.
Yes, Tales from the Borderlands is the best one.
But I'm going to pick Return to Monkey Island as my favourite thing that I'm most excited for. End of discussion. You can end my segment now.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us. It's been lovely to have you back. So I don't know anything about Monkey Island. I was just saying to you, it's a real blind spot for me. Why are you so excited about this? I mean, pretty long awaited sequel, really, isn't it?
So it's coming from Terrible Toy Box, which is the studio that is run by Ron Gilbert, who was one of the originators of Monkey Island. Monkey Island is it's a classic Lucasfilm point-and-click adventure from the kind of, the era of Day of the Tentacle and things like that. So it's very classic. It's not, I don't expect everyone to have played it, because point-and-click adventures they're a specific sort of game, and they're not for everyone, point-and-click puzzle adventures. But for the day that's in it, they're some of my favourite games. They're the games that, my big brother had knocking around when I was younger, because he was quite a bit older than me. So I played them when I was, knee high to a grasshopper. And then if you click on that grasshopper, you can combine it with a teddy bear and then give that to an octopus, and the octopus will let you into the tavern. So all that preamble aside, I think the last Monkey Island game we had was in the maybe literally 2000, although Telltale did some as well, so I can't remember the exact time, but it's been a long time basically, and this is the first time that an original has been re-involved, an original developer has sort of, I think, been re-involved in it. And the original voice actor for Guybrush signed on as well, which is great, Dominic Amato. That's really cool, and it's coming out really soon. That was what was revealed at Gamescom. It's coming. It was revealed 4 months ago, and it's coming out next month.
It's wild. It's the perfect way of announcing then releasing a game. Yeah, I thought I'd have more time to play the series running up to this, and then it's fantastic. It's out so soon.
Yeah, it's on Talk Like a Pirate Day as well. So lol. I don't know if it's going to be one. I don't know how referential and self-referential it's going to be. So I don't know if you need to play the original ones, but it does, I think, looks like it's really perfectly capturing the spirit of the original ones in a kind of fresh and modern way, because there was a bit of a hoo-ha about the art style changing. I don't know why, because it's changed.
It looks so nice.
It looks so cool. It's the artist from, I think, Knights and Bikes he did. It's different, so it's not pixel art, but also the art for the series changed basically with every significant sort of milestone. So it's not as if this is the first time that it hasn't been pixel art. So, and a lot of people have got their necks in a twist. But there's stuff so the trailer from Gamescom was, the character leading it was Stan, who is a salesman, a used car salesman type. And it's stuff like the pink and black check pattern on his jacket. He flails his arms around a lot, and you can see that it looks like his arms are sort of moving through a pattern. The way it's hard to, if you're watching this video, you put a clip in, you'll be able to see what I mean. It's not like the pattern is, on his arm and he moves and the pattern moves with his arm, if you see what I mean. And that's from the original incarnation of Stan. And they didn't have to do that because they're not working with the same technology obviously anymore, but they have replicated that. I think stuff like that is a nice touch if you are a fan of the series. But
that's interesting. Okay.
At the same time, is stuff it's got kind of quite modern jokes in it. If you go to the Monkey Island website now, the official Return to Monkey Island website, Stan is in prison, and you can ask him why he's in prison, and he says crimes against marketing, and you can ask him more about that, and eventually you say well, what were you selling to people? And he said nothing fungible anyway. So it's a bit
Brilliant. I did quite like that you get, if you pre-order the game, you get horse armor, which sits in your inventory and can never be used.
And does
throughout the
nothing.
entire game.
Yeah.
Just, if anything, it's an inconvenience to pre-order the game and get that item.
I know, it's so funny. So I like that, and I was really excited to see that it's coming out so soon. I think.
Nice.
Fingers crossed. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm also excited, and I have no history with the series. I haven't played a point-and-click game since Discworld Noir, I think, which I played with my dad.
Oh, that's a deep pull.
It's a good one, though. I love
good
that
pull.
game so
All
much.
the characters pretty much voiced by Rob Brydon.
What?
Yeah, did you not know that?
No. Well, wow. Well, I've learned so much from this chat about 90s point-and-click games.
There you go. We'll do a new series where I just come on and do like point-and-click trivia.
Well, thank you so much for jumping on.
Thank you. Can I do my favourite joke before I go?
I'd love you to.
Okay, it's my favourite dad joke. What's a pirate's favourite letter?
R?
I should think 'twould be R, but my first love be the sea.
Very good. I like it. Okay, I'm convinced to play Monkey Island now.
See ya.
Hey Rachel, how you doing?
Doing alright, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's nice to have you on the channel. For those who don't know, Rachel joined us recently as our reviews editor, and we've been trying to organise a way for you to get on the channel for a while now.
Yes, we have.
So we all watched Geoff Keighley's Gamescom opening night live. That's like the 8th time I've said that today, and I still can't say it in one smooth go. What were your general feelings about the show?
You know, I thought it was alright. Like, nothing really stood out to me, if I'm honest. Like, I don't know whether for me it was just like the lack of indie games or just like the lack of like returning games. Like, there was a bunch of new IP and like, but nothing really like stood out to me, to be fair. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the general consensus of most people I've spoken to today. So what is the one game that interested you over everything else?
So, I've gone a bit rogue with my choice. And you know, the one that really got me kind of the most excited was the Killer Klowns from Outer Space game adaptation. I just thought that was like, has such a different vibe from the rest of the show. Like, a lot of the trailers we see are really kind of like stuffy and really serious, and so to have something so far left field was wild to me. So yeah, that was my choice of the whole evening. So I had no idea this film was even a thing before the trailer.
Yeah, neither did I.
I was like, what is this? To be fair, when it first the trailer first started, I was like, oh, is this like a Back to the Future game? Like this kind of like 80s, 90s vibe, like, and so yeah, it's only then when it was like Killer Klowns from Outer Space, the game, that I was like, oh, okay. And so yeah, started Googling it, and this film is wild. This film is like, I've never seen it, I've never heard of it, but to be fair, I feel like it'd make quite a good horror game. Like, I like my campy multiplayer horror games, and so the trailer didn't show a lot, which is understandable. Okay. It's like an announcement. But what they did show was, I thought, quite funny. I don't know, I just thought it was like wildly different than everything else, so it really caught my attention.
It did look really interesting. So I've never played Dead by Daylight. I never played Friday the 13th. I played a little bit of Evil Dead. And I do like this thought that a bunch of developers are just looking at 80s horror movie properties and are going, yeah, screw it, let's make a game out of that. It's quite an interesting trend, and this feels like a very fun take on that, because yeah, I've never heard of the movie. It seems like a very niche film from, 30 years ago. But yeah, it did come out of left field. I can see why this one caught your eye more than other bits and pieces.
Yeah, like I feel like I play quite a lot of like multiplayer horror with my friends, and at some point, like, we just want to mess around, and like half of it is like the bants that you get out of it. Like with Phasmophobia, that's like one of my all-time favorites. Like, that game is scary, but also because it's a bit rough around the edges, like, and because it's a bit it's still in early access, there's still a lot of like ways for it to go. We just kind of like poke fun at it and make our own humor, and I feel like this game is in the kind of same realm, instead of it being like, focused on like being really scary, because when you like are scared so much that you kind of laugh it off. I feel like with this one, it's not that scary, but there's going to be, I just read the Wikipedia page in this film, and it just sounds like there are like balloon dogs, like banana cream pies fall from the sky. There's just all sorts of like nutty campy things going on, and I really hope the game kind of leans into that, because that's what I kind of want out of this game. The trailer was very much like they had like laser guns, which is, you know, okay, whatever. But I really hope they lean into the campy side of this horror film, because that's why the film has a cult-like status, right? Because like killer clowns from outer space, like that is nuts. So I really want the game to proper lean into that, and yeah, I hope it's going to be good. I've not played Friday the 13th. I think it's the same executive producer who's working on both, just because it was a bit too serious. Like, these films are fun. These films are like a part of a generation where, like, I don't know, horror was more, you know, a bit more wild. It was less focused on, like, yeah, it was scary, but there was like a campiness to it. And I think this is a good choice for a multiplayer game. Yeah,
I had zero interest or thought about this game, but now you've made me think, yeah, you know what, I'm going to try this out. You raise a very good point, and it's a genre I really want to get into more as well. Well, thank you for coming on and saying such a left field suggestion, because it's a very interesting one.
Yeah, coming in with those weird hot takes. Yeah, Killer Klowns, Gamescom #1 choice.
Hello, thank you so much for watching this video. What were your favourite games shown off during Geoff Keighley's opening night live? Let me know in the comments below. For all your PC gaming needs, make sure to check out Rock, Paper, Shotgun, and I will see you again very soon.